Father, I am thankful you've been so good to me. I appreciate your goodness, your mercy, and your grace. Father, I ask indeed for each of these men and women who've been selected to serve. God, I ask that you would not only bless them and help them, God, as they are stewards of our resources, but also I pray, dear God, that you would address any issues that they have at work, at home, anything that might prove a distraction from them doing the work they need to do. So, Father, I just thank you again for your goodness, and I praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. First up tonight, Ashton had some guests who were visiting and wanted to talk with us about a proposal for something. Ashton?
Y'all welcome to stand up, talk loud enough. We got a microphone over here. This is what I gave y'all the pictures.
Hey guys, how are y'all? My name's Matthew Gregory. We came to view a property a few weeks ago that was on the market. A church was in to look at adding mini storage in the property, and then driving around, we located another property that I think you guys know the city does. And this is the old food world. And we love the opportunity to try to buy that from you guys. And I've taken a few other properties like that and turned it into heated, cool, mini storage in other areas. So
This one's at Leeds.
yes, at least. So not sure what we could do to kind of work that out, but we made an offer to you guys already. We love the opportunity to buy it if possible.
How many of these have you done? Is this...
Well, I've been part of two, but the Leeds one is mine. Yeah.
So this is a mini warehouse.
Yes, sir. It's,
Okay.
it's like heated and cooled.
Right.
Yeah.
How many do you think you can get in over there?
Well, that one you're looking at is has about 180 units.
Yeah.
And I think this one would be probably 225 to 240 units. So, you know.
You plan to do any kind of storage in the out, like, is it just gonna be the inside storage?
So it does have a big parking lot there. Not sure what zoning would allow, but, you know, I would be open to, you know, maybe
RVs and
boat
boats.
and RV storage. Yeah.
And we do have a session to talk about that later on, about what, you know, negotiations, price and all that.
Okay.
We'll get to that, and I'm glad y'all came and showed the interest in, you know, what we have here. That's great to hear. So,
Okay.
And let's not forget too, my only problem is we do have that approval property on the list to be considered for something else, and we hadn't made a decision yet. And it sounds like some of us have already made up our mind, it's like making a decision for everybody else.
So, that's what we'll talk about. We do have a lot to talk about.
Thank you for your interest.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Yeah. So what we'll do is talk about it.
Okay.
In the executive session, get something back, and one of us, mayor, and us, like, we'll go back in touch with you guys by the end and see how
Awesome,
next
thank you.
steps would be.
Yes. Awesome, thank you.
Well, your timing is good. A lot of good opportunity here. A lot of big things opening up. So thank you for your interest in
Yeah,
Sylacauga.
that's great, thank y'all. It would, cost, you know, it's a pretty big investment also because of the roof, it's probably about $500,000 or $600,000, and, you know, all the electrical heating in there, so. All right, guys, thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much.
Are they not gonna stay for the executive session?
No, they're not allowed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank y'all.
Working through the work session agenda this evening, we have Michael Rice from the EFS regarding Marble City Heights paving project, the fiscal year 23 transportation plan and drainage improvements project cost estimate. You're on.
We'll kind of run through the list in the order that you laid it out there. The first thing to talk to you guys guys tonight about is the Marble City Heights Circle paving. We received bids on that project last Thursday. And the low bidder on the project was Central Alabama Asphalt, a construction company LLC, $74,750. There were 2 bids on the project. We checked their bid tabs and all their submitted documents, and they were the lowest qualified bidder for the project. It was right at our project budget that we had anticipated for that road. So,
Have you done business with them before, Michael?
yes, sir.
Okay, they do a good job?
They do.
Okay.
We have talked to 2 counties that they worked in, Shelby, Jefferson, well, 3 in Tuscaloosa, and all of those were very satisfied with the quality of work they had out of that contract.
Great.
So that's kind of item 1, and I'll ask, or I'll answer any questions, that you guys may have on that. Yeah, so the
So
next.
how soon will they get started, Mike?
So the next step would be for the, council to vote to approve the project tonight. If they do so, then the mayor can issue the notice of award. It'll be approximately 30 days of gathering insurances and bonds and getting contracts signed, so
So about a month and a half?
I would think so. And they'll have it done in a couple of days, a week max.
Okay.
I would say, late September is probably a target for start date, early October. And just so everybody's clear, that's from Oldfield Road to the, city limit line. That's where that stops. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we'll talk about the drainage improvements. So we were hired to basically do a camera report and pull together some preliminary costs on 3 different locations throughout the city, or 4 different locations throughout the city. Location 1 was South Church and East Clay. Location 2 was West Walnut and South Norton. Location 3 was East First Street and Calhoun Avenue, and location 4 was the open drainage channel adjacent to Central Avenue, near the Mill Village. So those were the 4 locations that we looked at. And I think you guys have a preliminary report of our findings, that showed the exploration, the existing condition of some of the storm drains and pipes and those different drainage structures. And then, so the second section of the report lays out the proposed improvements and those anticipated costs with those proposed improvements. So I don't know if y'all had time to review that, but I will be happy to answer any questions on those.
Now, is I know our street department has gotten some of the issues cleared, some of the drains on drains, like up there on Calhoun, which pretty much block up, we got a lot of it out, correct?
Yes. And I have just estimated if, we'll evaluate the condition of that, but if there has to be some additional jetting on that location or cleaning, I've got a little bit of budget in there for you.
Now, we've got, what does, action 5 says that, I've got to take this off, I feel like I'm yelling. Action 5 says that we are going to have some improvements done for $434,870. Is that, what is that cover?
I don't have the agenda, Nate.
I'm sorry, Mike.
That's the estimated total construction cost.
Is that for everything that he just presented?
Yes.
That was the fee and everything that we did. Okay.
Now,
Good.
his fees
Yeah.
are the $57,000.
But the 434 is everything altogether, including his fees, correct? If I read it right,
That's
that's,
what I was wondering.
So-
Yeah, that's excluding. I think the total is $486,688.75. Michael, is that correct? What, it's the 434 plus the 57 would be the total.
Okay.
The estimated construction cost.
gotcha.
I think one clarification to that, I think we had 10,000 set up for a utility relocation allowance. That would not be for us. That would be for, if there's an anticipated or unanticipated utility conflict that's encountered during the design needs to be handled.
Right.
Is that in the 57 or in the 434?
So,
It's in 434.
correct.
So, but this right here, what we're fixing to pay for, would help me, because you know, sometimes people don't speak native. When we do this may not fix our problem, but it will definitely help, correct?
Yeah, so Reed and I came together and there was a couple of side streets that Reed had looked at for a long time and said, hey, they're not functioning the way they're supposed to. And when they don't function, everything bypasses the storm drains there and ends up a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the two locations in particular in this project that do that are location 1 at South Church and East Clay, and then location 3, which is Calhoun Avenue and East First.
Right.
Those two, I know Broadway has had a lot of rain this year and really had some issues with flooding. I think those two will help mitigate the surface runoff to Broadway.
Okay.
Location 2, West Walnut, it was another one that just had collapsed pipe and just non-functioning storm drains. And location 4, you know, one could probably argue will help Broadway as well, because a lot of the drainage through the city runs to that channel that, you know, discharges north to the Mill Village. So if there's any backup or impediment in that, it could start affecting things upstream of that.
Well, Michael, I believe in what you're doing, I believe what you tell me, you've always done a good job since I've been on board, so I'm thankful to have this together and we can get it passed and get this ball rolling.
How much money did we put aside for this weekend?
It was at least $500,000, so we're,
Cause it's coming out of the CARES Act, right?
Coming out of the ARPA funds.
yes.
That's all we put aside for this? I thought it was, I just thought it was a little bit more than, I don't know why I was thinking it was almost $1 million we put aside for this drainage project. Am I wrong?
We talked about one at $500,000 and then one at 3/4. It may have,
Yeah, 'cause I think it was $1 million we put aside. And I'm just trying to see how much change we got left, basically.
I would have to pull my documents on that. I don't know.
Well, when you get it, just let me know, because it apparently came in way under than what we anticipated. I just would like to know how much, the dollar amount that's left, because there was some other things that we needed to do.
I've spoken with several, like, Ben Robbins of the world and stuff, and they're trying to help with financials and stuff. To, you know, help mitigate some of these issues and do other projects similar with some funds from the state, so hopefully that'll pull through.
That's good news.
He seems to be pretty positive about, you know, there may be funding available for these type of projects, so.
That really doesn't matter, because we still gotta do this now, so.
Thank you, Michael.
Still got more to.
Okay.
Now the transportation plan.
Yes, sir. So the fiscal year 2023, I think, required by law with the 2019 gas tax, the city has to lay out a plan annually by the end of August of what their proposed funding looks like for their transportation projects. So, and it's not a hard and fast, you've got to stick exactly to this, but I think it lays out just the groundwork of what the city plans on working on and funding over the coming year. This is pretty much, if you've seen it, very similar to what has been presented to the council the last 2 years. It's just, I guess, the third update of that required document.
Hey, Mike, I got a question. Does that include sidewalks at all?
Yeah, well, we do have sidewalks in here. You'll see on the projects, the 2 TAP grants that have been completed previously. I think they were dedicated in this, in this transportation plan.
I guess I'm thinking of something, I guess, on a bigger magnitude, because we got a lot of sidewalks that need a lot of work in town, and it would be nice if we could get some kind of grant to redo some of these sidewalks.
The TAP program is a good program, but it works at areas like downtown Sylacauga. It's very good in front of storefronts.
I know, but is there something?
For residential.
Is there something else?
Well, it doesn't even have to, is there something else that would be dedicated to just sidewalks?
Let me check. Nothing right offhand that, we typically have apply for cities annually that I know of that I can check. So, and I have some of these projects that I have talked about tonight, I've included on this plan. And it's, you know, it's a working document, so, I talked to Kim about a little bit, is, hey, once the city completes something on this, do we leave it, do we take it off? And kind of just thought it would be better to keep it on there, and you can kind of see the city's progress annually when you look at those projects, so. I'll be happy to answer anything on there.
Looks comprehensive as a draft, looks good to me.
Now, this is on the
This-
agenda
this-
this evening because the deadline
Is-
is
is
August
this month.
31st to
Yep.
approve it. It is a working document, and it is your plan for next year or the next fiscal year on the projects that you're going to complete.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm not, haven't dealt with, I guess, the legal side of it, but I think it's not to say if a project came up and there was funding that, you know, if it wasn't on this list, it's not like the city can't do it. But I think it's more of, hey, the city is trying to lay out a plan for the different,
Yeah, has the framework.
yeah.
Looks good.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Good job, Mike. Thanks.
Mike Whetstone and Reed Calfee wanted to talk with us concerning AT&T's request for a permit for fiber placement downtown.
We have a request of AT&T. They're needing to put some conduit in on the 200 block of Broadway. Between on the east side, which would be the Odie perimeter market area. And I don't know, Kim, did you send them the drawing?
Now,
They presented a drawing, and what they were trying to serve one customer. What they need to do is they already have a manhole back there, and they want to get a conduit with this one customer. And Reed and I agreed that if they're gonna tear this up, the road, the alley he wants to put, the alley was not paved in the tap ground. But he had intentions of putting the alley resurfacing in a future paving project. And so if you're gonna dig up the alley, then we told them that you would probably want to go ahead and do all the buildings back there, so next week when they have another customer, they're not gonna wanna dig up again. But the issue is, and normally Reed and I sign off on these for Spectrum or whomever, because they're fairly uncomplicated, but you're probably gonna get a lot of questions when we start digging up, they need to dig up the sidewalks in order to get to the building. And these are the sidewalks we just put in.
Why was this not approached prior to that?
I have no idea.
Time out, back up, Mike. These are the sidewalks that we just poured in the tap grant that we just did, right?
Correct.
I'm a little confused, so walk with me with this. And AT&T wants to put in a fiber? Is that right?
Conduit for fiber optic.
Okay, so I got a question. Why did nobody contact AT&T to see if this was gonna happen, like you do, look for a phone line, a gas line, or whatever? Because here's the deal, they fixed to raise Cain, because that's brand new concrete, and they just had to go a couple of weeks, probably whenever that was done, 4 or 5 months ago, and lose a couple of business, reroute their customers, because it was pouring new concrete. And I know, and I'm not yelling or getting mad at you, but I am a little frustrated. I don't understand why anybody was called.
That's what I was asking.
That's,
Why wasn't it addressed prior
what's the
to
people's
it?
name? Who's over the tap grant project?
TDC.
Okay, that's what we need to be
that's
asking.
what you discussed during pre-construction meetings, okay?
Okay, whose job is that?
Well,
But-
whoever meets with
but
them
it-
from the city too.
But until AT&T expresses the need, no one can expect them to dig up the sidewalks or not. This is something new from
And if you're
AT&T.
gonna be mad with them, be equally mad at the utility board, especially after we paved all these roads and they went and done them up, so we.
I agree, I am mad at them, because I got little concrete spots all through my district. I get it, I do, I just think it's lack of management on somebody's end.
Even though AT&T has the right of way, Mike, even though AT&T has the right of way, we can't stop them from doing this because they have a right of way, right?
That would be more of a win question, but they've been there best we can figure for over 80 years. So yes, they have a restricted easement already, and I don't see how you could deny them along with any other utilities to upgrade their the technical aspects of what they do. I mean, pretty much copper phone lines are a thing of the past now.
But they're required to put it back in like character and,
Well, that's what we're asking you to direct us, because it's likely to happen on the other side of the road too.
Okay, but what happens, because it sounds like we can't stop it, sounds like it's gonna happen anyway, and then we say that they put it back in like character, but what happens if they don't put it back the way it is?
What we had talked about and suggest is have their engineer do a detailed drawing and only let them take out a section of sidewalk from
But there still needs to be,
the joint, from one joint to the next joint, have their engineers define how they're gonna put it back just like it was, and then have our engineer look at it, and then us make sure that they put it back, make sure that what they propose is acceptable.
We'll have a binding contract to
Is
hold
that
to
the
it, whatever.
same situation we had in State Farm when they put smart paving in there, what that across the sidewalk?
So it looks like area.
And what did they do in that instance, they did?
Well, that was prior to the tap grant being finished. That happened over there.
Well, I know, but what were they willing to do then, like, bearing on what they?
I mean, when we met with them the other day, they said that, you know, if they could, they would find the contractor that did it to begin with, and come back and put it back in if they were available.
And what's a timeline on this, cause Lord knows they can't afford to do that during.
They can't come in October, November.
You got Christmas.
They can't do it, they have to wait there the first year, Mike, they can't do it.
That's why I'm here talking to you, because it's going to be a tricky subject.
Well, they can come in January.
We just need some direction from you to tell, we need to try to tell them to patch it back, if we're gonna have them design it, or do you want our people to design it, and then follow our directions?
What do you and Reed think we need to do? What do you and Reed think we need to do? That's y'all's territory.
I think we should use as less resources as possible, this should be on them. I mean, we don't need to be,
they should provide a plan that's acceptable to Sylacauga Planning and Code.
and y'all two shouldn't even be assisting, that's just me, I don't think y'all should be assisting either, that's taking away our resources from the other things.
Well, I agree, but I have to still ask you, because it's going to take, we would still want our engineer to review what they submitted, which would be something they could do electronically, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But we feel also that they should do the complete design.
Yep,
Or
I agree
you
with
come
that.
up with a contract that they sign, so that our engineer designs it, and it's a cost reimbursement like a development would be.
They need to do the design because we might miss something and then it's our problem. We need to be able to hold them responsible.
But look, whatever they do, I'm sorry, Lord, whatever they do, they need to fix, whatever they mess up, they need to fix.
And we can't compare it to the utilities board and the roads, cause our city's a lot like the pipes and everything that they have to work on, the way that it's designed runs under our roads and stuff.
Whatever the current design is of what they're about to tear up needs to be noted in the contract,
Right.
and then those specific specs need to be followed to put it back like it was, and that needs to be in the contract, and that's something we can hold.
And
Well,
prefer-
it needs to be after the holiday season.
I
because
agree.
it's gonna kill our small businesses, I mean, that's the prime time for them in our community.
October and November is very busy.
A related question, Mike, AT&T has recently begun digging up yards on north of Moats Road, and they're in the yards, they're digging up yards burying fiber. I mean, it's extensive. Did they request a permit for anything like that? Do they need to? Or is it within their right of way so they can do whatever they want?
If it's on private property, we have nothing to do with it, and if they already have aerial up, then that's between the property owner and them. We just have an extensive one that's going to happen with Spectrum in Fairmont, but most of it is not digging up any roads, it's basically aerial, going down into our right of way underground, and setting a pedestal beside the pole, so they can connect there.
But can these utilities work within their right of way without any additional city approval? Because along Sedgefield Lane, they have destroyed several front yards, beautiful front yards, digging and burying fiber, and they put dirt back.
If you're on private property, the city has nothing to do with it. I mean, we only deal with the right of way.
But they don't need any additional approval from the landowner because that's within their right of way.
If they've already signed it away, it's likely so, that'd be more of a win question. It's likely they've already signed the right way with, so they don't have that.
If they have, they gotta deal with it.
But this is the same thing, except that they're pulling up our concrete, which is different from, just digging up
I
dirt.
just make sure that his specs were on there to be put back, like, this is what you have to put it back to, and that, make sure that's in the contract.
There still
But they
needs to
gotta
be
put it back.
something in there that says if you don't put it back, and I don't know if this is something realistic, a timeline. If it's not done within a certain timeline, then you're responsible for such and such.
With penalties.
I think that would be ideal.
Yeah, they said 1 week from the time they're giving the okay started, 1 week that meeting.
So
It'll
it's
take a while.
either they do it right now or January.
Take a
Well,
while
I
before we-
think they got a pending customer, that might got brought up all of a sudden, that's waiting on the service they're providing. So,
take a
So
while
really,
before
that
we-
customer that's
it,
being obstructed is not gonna care, cause they're the one getting the service.
well, it started with that customer, but again, we said, you know, we don't think that they need to keep doing this one at a time. If they're
Oh, yeah,
gonna
run
do
the
it,
whole line so they can
Yeah,
just
just
go
do
in.
it, be done with it, especially before we pave the street also, when they have to come back and have a sidewalk.
Yeah. So I think
Well,
what we're
as-
saying is get them to design it and then we could just overlook it.
That sounds good to me.
I mean, we can have somebody overlook it out of my budget, because we have a retaining there for somebody looking at things like that anyway. Really, it would be any fund that is already allocated, since it's gonna be fine anyway. And I do agree, and I'm sure he does too, to let their engineers handle the line at their expense, and then I'll just approve it.
Yeah.
And again, included the agreement that, the requirement that they restore it to the pre-existing condition, with penalties if they don't, subject to your
It would be
inspection.
specified to the T what they have to put back,
Yeah.
concrete pinned into the other sidewalk to make sure it don't heave up or anything like that. I mean, we'll make sure it's right, but it's still gonna be a lot of questions asked when people see it done.
Absolutely. And guess who they're gonna call? Guess the district that is? I ain't calling Nate's name or anything. That's okay. I can take it. I'm tough.
Thank you.
Hey, but hold up, but I do wanna harp on, we really, and I hope y'all agree with me, council, we really don't wanna do anything October and November,
No.
nor December. I'd really be grateful if they could start after the first of the year, because downtown is booming October, November, and December. Is that possible, Mike?
Or right now.
If they can jump on it right now, I don't see where it would be.
But if they, okay, well, if they can't jump on it right now, then you gotta help us on that, those 3 months, cause they'll raise Cain. They'll come burn my house down.
And depending on the weather too, in January, and probably,
It'll be hard.
it's gonna be cold.
Yeah.
Well, let's
We gotta come up with something.
expedite getting their plans so you can make the necessary.
Am I right or wrong, Mr. Ken?
recommendations.
What's that?
Am I right or wrong?
All right, other items on the agenda this evening, we have a resolution to accept an updated Title VI program recommended by East Alabama Regional Planning and Development Commission. Have a transit agreement to approve with them, renewal extension.
Margaret and Nancy are here.
Do Margaret and Nancy need to say anything?
Y'all, they're all good? Okay.
So I think we're prepared.
I think Kim got the
Okay, we're
updated. Yeah.
Which
Kim,
square?
Did you get that from Shane?
Okay, good.
We have the agreements we've already discussed for the, getting help from EFS for the Marble City Heights Circle paving project, the fiscal year transportation plan, and the proceeding with the drainage improvements project. We have a, resolution authorizing transfer of a Ford Crown Vic, to the fire department, authorized disposal of police department vehicle. It's amending an earlier one. We have an additional amendment with the Chamber of Commerce. For clarification, Ms. Morris, this is an additional pass-through?
Yes.
So this is an additional pass-through to the Babe Ruth team. We have, an MOU, authorization for the city attorney, to, deal with the purchase of, city property by Bluebell. This is property that we, had been renting for several years, but got appraised, a couple of years ago, and, they've now agreed that, they want to buy that. It's next to their existing property. Approve a request from Parks and Rec to allow the sale of beer during a September concert in Central Park. We're still awaiting a letter from the ABC board, right?
No, the letter is required from the city, authorized.
So that they can apply.
So that they can apply.
Okay.
Because it's our property they're doing this.
Street superintendent needs to renew an agreement with Temp Force for 2 additional animal shelter laborers. And an additional animal shelter laborer that he's adding. We have a recommendation from Mayor Heigl to approve a new job description for Assistant Fire Chief. This is just to have on the shelf. We haven't approved the position yet. This is getting the job description approved so that then we can consider filling it.
What does it have to be funded?
It's a separate request. This is just getting it in position. And the same thing for the information technology administrator. It's not a position that's currently budgeted, but we're getting the position description approved.
Gotcha.
So that we can continue with it if we get approval. We have an off-premises retail beer and wine license request from Dollar General, across from Wells Fargo. We have some training for fire department and fire captains and firefighters and fire inspectors. An amendment to a law enforcement training course for the police department, and accounts payable, and payroll for July. Anything else we need to discuss work session wise?
Yeah, I have a question. Rick, where are we at on the concrete streets, bud?
They have to leave for about 3 weeks, they'll be back, they're scheduled to be back, a couple of weeks, and they're not gonna leave after.
Okay, where are we at on 8th Street project? The use of housing, are we done over there?
No, not done,
Where are we at on that?
about halfway through.
Okay. When we gonna start back? Whenever you people get back from sickness and vacation and whatnot?
I got a trailer and truck now, I can't move my tractor with it.
I got you. Okay.
Hopefully next week.
Okay, does it take a while to get, cause we had like 4 or 5 big dumpsters out there, does it take a while to get them in?
We moved 70 tons in 2 days.
Good Lord. Okay.
Another question semi-related to this. The council authorized, removal of several properties where I'm told that we now have an issue where there's asbestos, so we're not able to, eradicate them as planned. We need to get a bid on asbestos removal so that we can continue with the funded project of removing those facilities.
That's the first I've heard of it, but I'm glad you let
Yes,
me know.
well, an alternate plan was to board them up and make them look nice, and I don't think that's in our best interest. We've authorized removing them, and we need to continue with removing them.
I agree.
So we need to seek a bid on any,
Contact with the company, getting their quote for that.
the whole point is the unsightliness of those houses, and they just need to be gone, not,
Let me ask this, so since they have the asbestos in them, are we gonna use all the resources in those houses? Or are we gonna, go ahead and continue to knock down all the ones on the list and circle back to them when we have a bid of how much it's gonna be?
I'd have to see, first of all, which ones actually have the asbestos, okay?
because there hasn't been a formal inspection yet of all of them. It's just a concern. We can't estimate the cost, but it's probably not an exorbitant cost, but if we keep using it as a roadblock, we'll never get anything done. So we need to find the additional funding, and maybe we can't do one house, but we need to get the others down that we've started, and then find some extra funding. They can't just be allowed to stand up. We've gone through all the processes with nuisance and abatement, and they need to go.
Where
So-
do we stand with the Hickory Street Bridge project?
Are you talking about
The one on that
one at the
runs,
nursing home or the one at?
the other side, that runs behind Walnut and
Kim got me the information with all the paperwork back from Lynn and sent to him. He said he should have it ready and out for bid the first one.
Okay.
First or next week.
complete them all the way until he made sure that he had right of way to get in where he was saying to do what he had on the drawing.
And the nursing home project is complete? Okay. All right.
One more question. Where are my four-way signs at on North?
Yeah, I know we had talked about
Keep
that.
going.
Yeah. We got those in?
Ken Horn just had a wreck here because the lady hit him and she couldn't see him because there was 4 cars parked where hair raisers used to be.
I know we had discussed before, that was the medium we talked about was the 4-way stop signs. I don't think we
I
need.
don't think anybody ever gave an answer to, let's get it done.
I thought it was 4 to 1.
We didn't get it funded, so.
Is it a PO type deal or is it we have to vote on it? I mean, just like ordering, like when we ordered the signs that got stole out of.
Well, it'd be a big project, it'd be thermal, plastic.
Can we not just put the one like you did on Main?
What he's saying, we said it's a 4-way stop, he's saying it's more than just putting up a stop sign.
It's more than just
Down
putting
proper
stop sign,
striping.
you have to put your bar, your crossbar.
That's what he was saying.
And everything else there, so.
So it's gonna be a project, we have to get a bid out on that.
But it's still just a matter of, if everybody agrees to do it, then I don't know if it needs to be put to a vote or whatever, then we yea or nay, and then we just move forward with it, instead of just,
I agree, we need to
if
move
that's
that
what y'all
forward.
gonna do.
I agree.
Well, it makes sense to do second if we're doing first, because you also can't see it, Pete's feet and see it when you're turning, same exact problem. Need to be consistent.
So Kim, do we need to write up something
I would
today or is
recommend
it?
that you put it on the next agenda if you
Okay.
want to, because Kelly needs to put together a cost estimate of what, I mean, there's more than just a few things, so.
Yeah.
Let's let Kelly put a recommendation together
Look,
and
it's-
let's all vote on it.
If y'all could have seen the way Mr. Ken was, when he wrecked last Thursday or Wednesday? Whenever, it wasn't, it just wasn't good. Was you behind him? Yeah, I mean, it just was bad. Thank you.
Brian, you here at CDA, you got anything, any questions, concerns? Just,
No, I mean, obviously we're kind of in limbo on waiting on the Sanders deal. But other than that, entertainment district, Wynn and I met for 2 hours
How'd that
yesterday. Went very well, we're heading in the right direction. Our goal is to have something official to present to you by the first meeting of September.
Really?
What about that next site stuff? I'm probably the only person who's not even looked at that.
Well, I think I sent Lee and Ashton and Kim, an email on that, and their claim is legitimate. What happened on that is the original developer, Tiffany, that I was made aware that they were talking to, sold to another developer, but of course, all their information goes with it. I was not apprised that there was a new developer, so when all this came about, I was caught totally off guard. After that, and after we talked that night here, because I'll admit, I was very frustrated. We called Chuck, and we brought him down to a CDA meeting and let him know in no uncertain terms that this was never to happen again. That they were gonna have to communicate better, and that they were gonna have to keep us up to date with who they are talking to, when they are talking to them, because we didn't want any more surprises.
What's the remaining term on that agreement?
Yeah, that's what I was
1 year.
saying.
We can opt out, I believe it is next May, if we want to. Oh, back up. We can't opt out now, I'm sorry.
Because they got their one.
Because they got their one deal, but they've actually, there's gonna be one coming on T-Mobile also. They got T-Mobile, and, there's one more that I can't talk about, right now. But, so that, I mean,
Where do
I'm
we,
irritated in that we were caught off guard by it, but I'm not irritated in the fact that they're doing what we paid them to do. I mean,
They just didn't communicate.
they just didn't communicate.
well, where do we stand with the Sanders painter's deal at this point? Cause I feel like this is something that needs to be done before the holiday season to get the ball rolling.
They definitely are, yeah, they're definitely pushing on it, they need it done. I think the stickler there is there's some things, I just really rather talk, I don't wanna talk
Okay.
about it in this environment.
What? You don't wanna talk about it?
Not in this,
Say,
Our advisor is reviewing the
Yes.
financial proposal.
For Sanders?
Yeah, so we should have that
will
shortly.
will we have it, you think we'll have that next meeting?
I think so,
Okay.
and again, it's more complicated because it includes, some existing deals and existing property, which has to be rolled in for consideration.
And I really don't wanna get into
Yeah,
that.
we're more
That's
complicated.
fine.
I
But-
totally understand. I'm sorry.
But if
for
we
putting
get it
you
on the
spot.
next agenda, then we're on pace then.
Yeah, I think if you guys could tell me that it would relieve my, mind a lot, my heart, if I could go back to them and say, hey, we're gonna be prepared to go into an executive, discussion in the next meeting and hammer out these details.
As soon as we get the package, we'll be ready to look at it.
Great.
So,
Back from Brian.
Cash.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll conclude our, work session and go ahead and enter our council meeting.